The Chevy Silverado ZR2 is here, so let's find out how good it is and what other trucks it's going to be competing against. So the Chevy Silverado ZR2 is finally here, and the ZR2 badge pretty much symbolizes the most extreme version of the off-road capable trucks. Take the Colorado ZR2 for instance. That truck is absolutely amazing. It is so incredibly capable, and I consider it a mini Raptor. And it's an amazing little truck. So the ZR2 badge has a lot to stand up to. And now we had the Chevy Trail Boss, which was up to this point the most capable off-road truck for Chevy. It had a 2-inch suspension lift and does very well off-road. Now we're going to step above that to the ZR2. Now, how much better is the ZR2 than the Trail Boss, and what other trucks is it going to compete with? Now, before we dive too far into the suspension and technical specs, let's get an overall look of the truck. This looks very much to me like a Trail Boss. It has different bumpers front and rear. It has a different grille, but essentially I'm kind of looking at a Trail Boss. The cool thing about this is it does have the cutouts in the front bumper, much like the Colorado, so you get more approach angle and more clearance. And those bumpers actually have removable end caps, so if they do get damaged off-roading, you can remove the end caps from that front bumper, making them a lot easier to replace rather than replacing the whole bumper. So it does have a little bit more aggressive front bumper to it. You get the red tow hooks, heavy duty skid plates. The giant bow tie in the grille is actually hollow and sucks in more air, giving a little bit better cooling. It definitely gives it a little bit more of an aggressive look. Now the rear bumper we can look at, and you can see there's no longer tailpipe cutouts on this. It's a flat steel bumper, and the tailpipes are actually a little bit higher and tucked behind the bumper to avoid any damage while off-roading. It's a smart little design by GM. It keeps all your exhaust pipes out of the way, and for your departure angles, you don't smash the tailpipes up. But aside from those two exterior aesthetics, the truck's not really any wider. It doesn't have flared out fenders like you'll find, let's say, the Raptor or TRX. So it does look like a revised and slightly more aggressive Trail Boss. But honestly, if I saw it going down the road, I think I could easily mistaken it for a Trail Boss if I didn't see the front bumper and the cutouts there. So I think being a ZR2, they could have made the front bumper a little more aggressive and maybe put a little bit more fender flare on it. I don't know, something to differentiate it from the Trail Boss and other Silverado makes. Now, I don't want to say that like it's a bad looking truck, because it's absolutely not. It's still a good looking truck, but I think with something with a ZR2 name or badge on it, it needs to be very distinctively different. Now let's dive into the suspension aspect of it, because that's what this is all about. Off-road ready suspension. The thing about this one is the Trail Boss gets a 2-inch suspension lift. The ZR2 is getting the same 2-inch suspension lift, but different shock setups. Now the shocks on the ZR2 are going to get the Multimatic Dynamic Suspensions Spool Valve shocks, also known as the DSSV shocks, Multimatic shocks. Now these are a larger variation of what's on the Colorado ZR2. These are obviously much larger. They are 40 millimeter in diameter, and it has 3 valve chambers to help with that extra weight of the Silverado. Now we know how good these shocks are on the Colorado, so I think it's a smart idea that they're putting them on the Silverado as well. Now the ZR2 is going to get 33-inch Goodyear Territory mud terrain tires. You're also going to get front and rear locking differentials and uniquely tuned springs. Now, as far as springs are concerned, you'll get coil springs in the front, leaf springs in the rear, both of which will be specifically tuned for the ZR2. Now, with all that taken into consideration, the ZR2 has 11.2 inches of ground clearance. And thanks to the very specific front and rear bumpers, the approach, breakover, and departure angles are actually pretty good too. The approach angle is 31.8 inches, breakover is 23.4, and departure angle is 23.3. Now the ZR2 also comes with the 6.2 liter V8 engine, putting out 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. It's also going to come with the 10-speed automatic transmission, and will have a towing capacity of 8,900 pounds and a payload capacity of 1,440 pounds. Now, the last thing we got to cover here is the suspension travel, and the front of the ZR2 has 9.8 inches of travel and the rear has 10.6. So overall, the ZR2 sounds like a really good off-road truck, but is it good enough to compete with likes of the Raptor and TRX? I think that's pretty obvious that the answer to that is going to be no, it's not. For instance, the suspension travel on the ZR2, 9.8 inches in the front, where the Raptor is 14 inches. 10.6 in the rear, the Raptor is 15 inches. So, I mean, that's not even close. The one good thing about it, though, is it does compete with its approach and departure angle. Now, the Raptor has an approach angle of 31 degrees, where the ZR2 has 31.8. Now, that actually is a little bit better on the ZR2 than the Raptor, which is quite surprising, and it might have to do with the design of the bumper or the overhang, as it not so much the tire size or anything like that. The breakover for the Raptor is actually 22.9, and the breakover for the ZR2 is 23.4. So again, the ZR2 actually does have a little bit better breakover angle than the Raptor. And the departure angle is also in the same scenario. The Raptor has 23.1 when the ZR2 has 23.3. So these numbers are actually pretty interesting, considering the ZR2 is on 33-inch tires and the Raptor is on 35-inch tires. I mean, it does nudge the Raptor out, but the specs, I mean, we're talking 0.3, 0.2 inches of difference. I mean, it's so close, you might as well call them identical. But if we really want to break it down to that 0.2 or 0.3, then yeah, the ZR2 nudges the Raptor out. Now, I'm still actually kind of shocked about that. It has to be due to overhang on the bumpers of the Raptor. That's the only thing I can think of, with it being on 35s and the ZR2 on 32s. I'm a little baffled other than that, but I mean, it is what it is. So the ZR2 can't compete when it comes to suspension travel, but can definitely compete when it comes to rock crawling and approach and departure angles, things like that. Now, although the 6.2 liter is a pretty good engine with 420 horsepower, 460 torque, it's still not enough to compete with the Raptor's 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. And obviously we know neither one of those trucks can compete with the TRX. So where does the ZR2 fall into play? Like, which other trucks is this thing going to compete with? I don't think it's a Raptor fighter, and it's definitely a little bit more than a Trail Boss. I'm thinking it's probably going to fall in line with the F-150 Tremor. Now, the Tremor is a step above the FX4, and obviously the ZR2 is a step above the Trail Boss, and probably, let's say, the Ram Rebel, probably. So that's the class that I'm going to put it in. I don't know if that's the class in which GM really anticipated, but again, it's not there for the Raptor, but I think it can compete with the Tremor. So I think this is a good truck. I do. It's just, I think GM missed an opportunity to go a step farther, because I honestly think the Trail Boss was already competing with the likes of the F-150 Tremor. And aside from different shocks, the ZR2 is essentially just the Trail Boss with 33-inch tires, at least in my eyes, that I can tell. Slight exterior redesign, different shocks, and 33-inch tires. It sits on the same suspension, same A-arms and everything else like that. So is it enough of a difference? Is it enough to really differentiate itself from the Trail Boss? Or would you just buy the Trail Boss and put bigger tires on it? Because you can fit 33s on a Trail Boss easily. So I'm not sure that the ZR2 has differentiated itself enough from its own brother, basically, the Trail Boss. I don't know. I want your thoughts down below, though, on what you think of the ZR2. It is a nice truck. I don't want to down it. I don't want to make it sound like I'm hating on the truck. I like it. It looks good. It's definitely an improvement over the Trail Boss and more off-road capable, but I don't know that it's different enough. So I feel like Chevy missed an opportunity here to really swing for the fences and take on the Raptor. And I just think it missed. We don't have a price range yet. It only comes fully loaded from what I've read, so there's no real options. And the high country is starting at $55,000. The Raptor is starting at $65,000, so I'm sure it's gonna fit somewhere in the middle of there. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But I'm very, very curious on what your thoughts on the ZR2 are. I think it's a great truck. I don't think it's enough. I feel like Chevy could have did more. Please let me know down below what you think. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed the content, hit that like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already. Don't forget that bell notification too so you know when new videos drop. I'm Kevin, and I'll catch you in the next upload.